Hi guys, it is Aoife from Words of Clover, and I'm here to talk very briefly about the worst books I read in 2025. I went through my list and I think I got lucky. I don't know whether I got lucky in 2025 or maybe I was being a bit nicer in 2025, but I don't have a lot of books that I feel like I can put down on my worst. There was few lower, maybe more disappointing books, but there weren't a huge amount that I was like, these are the worst books that I just really did not like at all. So I only have four books in total to talk about. Those one of them is like a trilogy. The first book is one I have talked about a bit before, and it's You Make a Fool of Death. You Make a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi. And this one might surprise people because some people really, really loved this book, and I just really, really didn't like it. We are following a character who is getting over the death of her husband a few years previously, and she starts dating again. And she starts dating this guy. It's kind of really casual, and it doesn't really go anywhere. But then she starts dating his friend, and that's going a little bit better. But it's not even really dating. It's kind of like they're dating, but like he's more into her than she is into him in a way. But then he brings her to his family's home in Nigeria, and that's where the story really takes off. We see her kind of get to know his family a little bit more. She's an artist, and she gets like commissions for paintings over there as well, and she also is talking to someone else over there that kind of develops quite deeply as well. And I think with this one, it was just like it played on a particular trope that I found a bit icky and I didn't like. I haven't really read it before, and it's just one that just didn't work for me at all. But then I also just really didn't like the main character. I feel like I think her name is Femi. Um, I feel like we didn't get told anything really about her. We just kept being told like all these men were like really into her, and I was kind of like, but why? Like we know she's hot, obviously, like that. I feel like that's very clear, is that she's like a really beautiful person. But I felt like in terms of her personality, we weren't getting anything as to why all of these people were really into her and like so insanely into her. And yeah, I just really, really didn't like it. It just made me feel a bit icky. Yeah, didn't like the main characters, didn't like how some characters acted after being told certain things, and it completely went against the type of person we had been told that they were. And then it kind of felt like some of their actions were very uncharacteristic, and it was just to kind of serve the relationship the author wanted us to root for. It was just made to serve that, and to make that the right one and this one the wrong one. And yeah, I just didn't really like how any of it played out, and yeah, it just really, really wasn't for me. The next book I want to talk about is the trilogy, the Summer I Turned Pretty trilogy, and I have talked about this already, but I just thought the writing in this was really, really bad. Again, the relationships in it were really terrible. The main character of Belly, if anyone hasn't like read these books or watched the show, it's a YA series or trilogy, and it's about a character called Belly, or Isabel, who every single summer she goes to this beach house to with her kind of like family friends. They own this beach house, and she spends the summer with her brother and her mom and her mom's best friend and her two boys, and they've kind of grown up together. But she has this kind of like crush on the older boy called Conrad, and we see this summer that she's 15, where Conrad suddenly starts paying a little bit more interest in her. But there's also the younger brother called Jeremiah, and he's also kind of into Belly as well. So we kind of see this like love triangle between Belly, Jeremiah, and Conrad all play out over the course of 3 books. And again, it was like one of these things of like Belly was just like such a brat, and like she's a little bit bratty in the show, but in the books she's like so much worse. The writing was just very bare and just not good at all. And I say this as someone who loves the summer, not the Summer I Turned Pretty, the To All the Boys I Loved Before trilogy. I love that. I love Kitty Jean. Kitty Jean. I love Lara Jean. I love Kitty. I love Peter Kay. Like they are my like comfort reads. So to finally read the Summer I Turned Pretty trilogy and dislike it so much was like so heartbreaking for me, especially after I really loved the show. And yeah, it was just really, really disappointing. And again, it was one of these things where we kept being told that like Conrad like seemed to like her, and I was like, but we're not actually seeing that. I feel like we're just being told that he likes her, where his actions in the book and in the story, nothing really tells me that he's actually into her or that he actually loves her. And I don't see how like these two things are like adding up at all. And why would anyone like her when she is acting like such a brat? It was just kind of one of these things. So yeah, I really didn't like that, and that was like I bought them and then very quickly unhauled them because they were so bad. Then the third book was one I read in that I want to talk about is one I read in October, and I read this because I have the second book in this duology on NetGalley, which I still haven't read yet because this one kind of was like ugh. This was Scarlet Widow by Graham Masterton. We are following a character called Beatrice, and she is kind of set in like the 1800s. She's the daughter of this apothecary in London, and then she moves to the US after the death of her parents, and she marries this like kind of preacher and is living this like kind of like very peaceful life in this town, in this like I don't know, they're not Quakers, or like they're like, it's like a particular like, they're like, he's a preacher, they're kind of like a religious town, and then all these weird things start happening that people think like the devil is killing these people, killing these animals, laying out all these signs, and Beatrice feels like there's something more to this, that there has to be like someone behind it, because she has this like more scientific mind, and she starts investigating. And I just thought that like this was one of these kind of horror, it was kind of like a thriller mystery slash horror book, and I just felt like it leaned into gratuitous violence that didn't need to be there, and it was also very very like one of these like a woman written by a man type of books, where like, you know, it literally had this like line about how she had these like really big breasts and this teeny tiny waist, and I was like, oh Jesus, okay. It's one of these type of books. And then there was this really horrific rape scene from the victim's POV that I just really feel like that we didn't need, and there was just descriptions about like things going into her that were just like descriptive to the point of I was just like what is wrong with people, like why does anyone need to be reading this? Like it's just, it didn't even, yeah, it just was really, I didn't really like it, like I didn't like it at all. And if you're going to have a scene like that just feels like so unnecessary to the entire story, that's there just for violence, and also to have it that descriptive was just a real turn off for me. It completely turned me off the book, and is one of the reasons why I have picked up the next one. So yeah, just a real yucky kind of book. And then the last book is Butter, which is a book that is translated from Japanese, and again is one I just really really didn't get along with. I have just recently talked about this in my November December reading wrap up, so I won't try and go on about it too much, but this one is we're following a character who is a journalist, and she is interviewing this woman who is kind of in jail waiting for her trial, about how she encouraged all these men to kill themselves, and there's one of these, she's kind of like become like this kind of like media famous person, because everyone is saying is like, how could this woman like seduce all these men for the first, and also like persuade them to all to kill themselves, because she is not a good looking woman, because she has like, she's fat, she has weight on her, so how on earth could all these men find her attractive? And the journalist starts talking to this woman and kind of is like brought in by this like her charisma, and she, especially when she talks about food and why she loves food so much and cooking so much, and the main character is kind of inspired to start cooking for herself, and we see her start cooking for herself and exploring the world of like culinary arts in a way that she never had before. And she herself, because she's finally eating properly for the first time, also starts putting a little bit of weight on, and like everyone around her starts commenting on her weight and how she's letting herself go, and you know how she'd really want to watch out, and she's like, you know, turning ugly because she's a little bit of weight on her. And I just really didn't like it, because I found it quite triggering in a way that like she kept talking about how much weight, like how like many kilograms she actually weighed, and it was so tiny, and yet she'd be saying that like she was enormous, and other people would be reacting this way as well. So it wasn't just her like seeing herself in a way that others didn't, other people were seeing her as that as well, even though the weight she was saying was like so incredibly small. I was like, what is like, this is just, it's just horrible. And then I also just felt like the book was way too long. It lost its way in the middle, I felt, and characters started doing weird things that were just completely like, they just, yeah, completely just lost. I think the whole thing just fell apart around the middle of it for me, and I just really found it a drag to finish, and yeah, it just was just really a disappointing one for me, because I had heard so many good things about it, and yeah, I just found it a real struggle to finish, and I found it quite triggering around kind of the weight and the image, like the body image like stuff in it was just not it for me at all. So those are the books I really didn't like in 2025. Thankfully, there wasn't a lot of them. I mostly had a pretty good reading year. I think I read 104 books in total. So to only have a handful that were like classed as the worst books of the year is pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with that. Please let me know if you guys have read any of these books and what you think. What was the worst book you read of last year? Or are there any books that just like really disappointed you or that you wouldn't recommend at all? I would love to know. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you guys again next time.